Welcome back to This is VANCOLOUR. My name is Mo Amir, and our featured guest is an award-winning veteran broadcaster with a signature voice, a news anchor, a reporter, a consumer advocate, a radio talk show host, a recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Radio Television Digital News Association Canada. She hung up the mic earlier this year, at least for now, after a 6-year run hosting the Lynda Steele Show on 980 CKNW here in Vancouver. She was the first person to ever put me on radio, so blame her for me. She is my friend. She is Lynda Steele. Lynda.
Oh, it feels full circle, doesn't it?
Right?
I brought you on my show because when you interviewed me for your podcast, I thought, this guy is great. Come on my show. And now I don't have a show, and now I'm on your show.
You're here.
So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. You know, I have to be honest. I've missed you. I've missed being on the radio with you, and I just miss hearing your voice on the airwaves.
Oh, that's nice. You know, I feel, depending on the day, I miss it. I loved being right in the center of the action. You knew what was going on. You had screens up. You're on Twitter. You were right in the middle of things.
Yeah.
And it was fun to talk to the newsmakers, and I had a great team. And CKNW is an amazing station. So people say, oh, do you have any regrets? I think I don't regret leaving when I did because I had family reasons for doing that.
Sure.
So I don't regret that. But do I miss it? Yes. I mean, I've been a news junkie for decades.
Is this a retirement from broadcasting full stop, or can we maybe expect to see you down the line?
I don't know. It's not like I'm done with this media thing. It was, life intervened and said, you got to get your priorities in order. And
so the door's open. Breaking news, Lynda Steele will be back.
I mean, it has to make sense, though, right? Because the reason I left was because my dad has got Alzheimer's, and he's in the end stage in a long-term care facility.
Yeah.
And Alzheimer's is a bugger of a disease, and it has dominated my life for over a decade.
Yeah.
I moved back here. My mom was diagnosed. I spent 4 years dealing with my mom. She died right before I was maybe 2 weeks into my CKNW job. My mom passed. Really stressful. My dad had about a year and a half of calm, I guess, and sort of normalcy. And then ICBC said, we're taking away Dennis's driver's license. I was like, what? Because he has Alzheimer's. And I'm like, come on, you've got to be kidding me. So I have seen this movie before, and I'm now literally the only family member who is living in Metro Vancouver.
Right. When you left CKNW, obviously, as you just said, this was the big reason, but I'm just curious, and you did mention that during the pandemic, you weren't able to see him. He was obviously having a rough go as well. Was the pandemic really the impetus for you leaving the Lynda Steele Show and leaving broadcasting, or would you have done that anyways based on where your dad was?
It's an interesting question because I would kind of say yes on two fronts. I mean, first of all, I was so tired of talking about the pandemic. And we had done the math one day, and I was around the 1,000-hour mark of talking about COVID obsessively. We would have meetings in the morning, and the team would say, what can we talk about today that has nothing to do with the pandemic?
Yeah.
Because people were tuning it out. I can't take any more pandemic news. But all roads led back to the pandemic, whether it was an economic story, a political story,
of course,
a health story. So we had to do it. So I realized at some point that I was getting burned out.
Okay.
We'd had Trump for 4 years, and then the pandemic. And so there was that. But at the same time, it's hard for a parent to understand, why are you not coming to visit?
Yeah.
And all you can do is a Zoom call with a care worker standing there, and you're trying to have a personal conversation with your dad, and he doesn't understand, where are you? And when I finally got to go and see him in person again, I had to go in wearing a hospital gown, and I had rubber gloves, and I had a mask, and then I had a face shield on. And
not exactly a warm family reunion
and you weren't allowed to touch each other,
Right.
so he would come to you to hug you, and the staff would be like, no touching. And he would say to me, why are you wearing that?
Yeah.
Well, I have trouble still understanding the fact that we're in a global pandemic.
Sure.
It still seems like we're all going to wake up and this, was a bad dream. Well, try explaining to someone who's been essentially locked away in a super small environment, what is happening outside, Dad?
Yeah.
There's a pandemic. What is that? Why are you wearing that on your face? I don't want to scare him. Well, people are dying all around the world. But at the same time, I'm trying to explain, and he would nod. And about 5 minutes later would say, why are you wearing that on your face? So,
Well, and the reason I'm asking is because a lot of people during the pandemic came to, big life realizations.
Yeah.
They realized that they were, and I'm not saying this is you, but some people realized that they were unhappy in their jobs, so they completely changed careers. People did start reassessing a lot of things in their life, and so that's why I was kind of curious whether it was the pandemic that was the impetus for your decision.
I think it's a combination.
Yeah.
And I think the truth of it is that the pandemic made all of us really stop
Yeah.
for a second and think,
Reassess.
what's important?
Yeah.
Am I happy? Am I getting sucked down a rabbit hole of being negative and fearful and angry? Or do I stop and take a breath and say, okay, I am still financially secure. I have somewhere to live. No one close to me has died. I had a lot to be thankful for, and I wasn't focusing on that. I was focusing on, the fear and this crazy news cycle.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the key person in my life, my only living parent, needed me. And so I was trying to go, okay, sure, it's fun to do
Yeah.
this job, and it pays well, but is that selfish? And the answer was, yeah.
Taking a step back now that you've left broadcasting, away from all the minutia and all the daily updates, were there any lessons that you personally learned, big picture, out of this pandemic?
I think so. I learned really that I'm the kind of person who is incapable of mailing it in. So every day I wanted to have the best show with the best guests, and I wanted to learn the most, and I wanted everything to be like a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't find any down times, and so I was going too hard. And it was like I had the pedal jammed to the floor.
Yeah.
And that was fun and exciting, but at the same time, it was like being a one-trick pony.
Yeah, and it's not sustainable to live that kind of life as well.
It was like finally just frazzled, the synapses were not firing anymore. It was like, you need to slow down a little bit.
We've talked about this in the past, but one of the things that I thought you did so effectively was basically run two platforms. In traditional media, on the radio, you were driving this public discourse in the public square, but then also on Twitter, you were kind of synergizing the two, and through Twitter, you were also driving the conversation and hopefully driving people to the Lynda Steele show as well.
Right.
I'm just curious, given your history in this industry, how would you say that social media really affected our lives through this pandemic? If there was no Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, would we be different? Would we have acted differently through this pandemic?
Probably. I think there was an information overload for all of us.
Yeah.
We all wanted to know more, and you couldn't stop being glued to your screen, and that was not great for the mental health. No. But at the same time, this was an era which I think began with the Trump polarization, the American politics, where unfortunately it became people falling into camps. I support Dr. Bonnie Henry or I don't. I think vaccinations are the best thing, or it's my right not to have one. And with that, people got so angry.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate because there was a time, it seems very far ago, that Twitter and other social media sites like Instagram and Facebook would be places like town halls and places of connection. And I met people who I would actually consider to be friends through these mediums. And then it just got toxic, and people could go down rabbit holes, and they could find information that, if you Googled having a COVID vaccination can make your hair fall out and you can grow a third arm out of the middle of your back. If you Googled that, you could probably find some doctor in Arizona who says that's true. And so
that is not true, to be clear.
Thank you very much. It is not true. But it got to the point where people didn't know who to believe anymore, and people got in their own echo chambers and started seeking out information that only sort of, substantiated whatever they already believed. Right. They weren't interested in being open-minded.
Last question before I let you go. did you figure out how to use your steam oven
Oh.
now that you're not working in radio?
In my defense, it was complicated. And I also am a terrible cook. My husband will attest to that. So I thought, wow, I had this steam oven installed when I did renovations in my condo, and I had never used it.
Yeah.
And my teammates would, come on, turn that on. So when I did step out from CKNW, I thought, I've got time. Okay, well, you push this button, you pour water in there, and I actually used it.
So you're a chef now, basically.
No, I will say I've used it about 4 times, but I know how to use it.
You've used it, you know how to use it. I love
Yeah.
it. Lynda, this was a joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Fun to be here.
Folks, for the full chat with Lynda Steele, find This is VANCOLOUR on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, and watch past episodes on Check Plus and past segments on YouTube. For now, we have to break for business, but stick around, because if you know me, you know that I love to rant, and boy, do I have a whopper waiting for you. My name is Mo Amir. This is VANCOLOUR.